as a result, the arrow can never actually reach B. Because you have an infinite series of points to cover in a finite period of time. And there's several of these paradoxes. There's also the tortoise and the hare kind of thing. Lots of Achilles in a foot race. Each time he catches up by half the distance and then half the distance. You get the idea. Aristotle, by the way, will respond to the paradox by saying that the problem is when you're treating distance as infinite points, but time as finite. So what you have to do is use infinite time in infinite points and finite time in finite points, and then you'll be okay. So that's Aristotle's solution to that kind of paradox. Empedocles is famous for creating a band, Earth, Air, Fire. No. Band. Yeah, there you go. I knew there was a band that he was involved in. So he kind of lumps all of them together and says there's 4 elements. Atoms are kind of cool because what they argue there is that there's these little solid things of all different shapes that are all just clumped together in different things, and so the different things are shaped, as a result of the swerving interrelationship between all these little, unchanging particles. It's kind of an interesting one. Democritus is also an atomist. And the sophists, I should mention, sophists were teachers that went around teaching wisdom and were paid for it. And there are some famous sophists. How am I doing? A few more minutes? All right.
Sorry.
Okay, so we're good. I love mentioning Stephen Hawking. That link doesn't work. It used to be to a PBS or NPR. I guess it was NPR's site. You can still find it. I think it's still out there, but my link doesn't work. And so this is our standard model, basically. I don't know that it's changed that much. I think they might have found a few more particles, but I just give you our basic. And the neat thing about this, as we'll see as we go through the history of philosophy, is that there are some philosophers that predicted this pretty closely, but were thought to be idiots by everyone else. Because there's one that was burned at the stake by the Vatican in the Square of Flowers. Because he thought stars are actually really far away and as big as the sun, and there's millions of them. And of course they thought that's absolutely ridiculous, and he kept teaching it, so they burned him to death, for doing that.
Unfortunate response.
What was his name? I know it, but I can't think of it at the moment. I say who was burned at the stake. And it'll be like hundreds of people. I know I'm making this way too long. Bruno. Okay, so it is Bruno. I was thinking it was a Bruno, but I just talked about a Bruno. It's a different Bruno. Giordano Bruno. They have a plaque in the square where he was burned at the stake, for that obvious, Okay. So that's not very good, is it? Oh, there he is. Yeah. Oh, when you listen to the things he wrote and taught in various places, it's right on. It's as contemporary as so many of our astronomers today, and they killed him for it. Just bad mark. That's a fail. Okay, so yes,
funny thing relating back to Isaac Newton. When he was making his equation for gravity, he named the constant in the equation G, and G standed for God, and that way he wouldn't get burned by the Catholic Church.
And it fit because it's also gravitas, which means heavy. That's pretty neat. There's all kinds of interesting stuff about Galileo and his conflict, of course, over that. And we'll try to talk a little bit about that when we hit that period. But does everybody see where the link to the apology is? I'm trying to think. If you just go. There's, of course, all kinds of stuff. This is the one I think I use most. But so it's on there. That's the Jowett translation. There's other translations. I talk about the issue of translations and so on. But please read that. And if you have the chance, because this isn't really that long, it's a dialogue. And most of the dialogues are fairly short. Have a look at the Euthyphro, which is another one that I'll discuss kind of as a lead into the, I'll talk about the apology. It's his defense. He's on trial for being impious. And he blames Apollo. So that's apology, right? Where does Apollo come from? APO means of or from, and logos is order, the word in which one is it? Matthew? No, John. In the beginning was the word, right? Yes? Which one is it? I don't know. I think it's John. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, etc., etc. And the word in Greek is logos, which makes it seem like it could be a Heraclitean point of view, actually, a philosophical point of view. But so it's the defense, it's the reason. How many of you have given apologies at some time or another? You're explaining why it happened, right? So that's literally, Apollo. Apollo is the god of reason, and the Greeks had a temple at Delphi, which was, you can still go there, big tourist site. Every time I've looked at it, it's all buses, loads of tourists all over the place, and it's all ruins, of course, but they're still there, and you can actually see where the priestess would sit on a tripod over the crack in the earth where the steam from the vents, the volcanic steam, was coming up, and the priestesses would sit on this little tripod over the asphyxiating fumes, and the people would line up and pay the priests for their turn to talk to the oracle at Delphi, the Pythian goddess, right, which is speaking for Apollo, and they would come up and ask their question, and then the goddess would answer. And in the Apology, we find out that one of Socrates' friends goes to Delphi, and his question was, and his name is Chaerephon, which means he's the one that heard it, right? And he says, "Is anyone wiser than Socrates?" And the priestess, who's blotto, on the stool, replies, "No." That's my interpretation of the, she's, there were some days when the priestesses complained that the vapors were too strong and they couldn't work, and the priests were always upset at that, so that meant no money, right? But hey, it's going to kill us. So, fights. They went on strike again, You know how that goes. So, kind of neat. He comes back and he tells Socrates, I asked the god if anyone was wiser than you, and the priestess said no. So you'll see his explanation for why he's in trouble. And any other questions? See you Wednesday? Is that good? By the way, I'm going upstairs and probably spend about an hour or so. And it's, a big open area where we have seats, and I think that there's even supposed to be tea and coffee, although I didn't see anyone else up there making anything. But I'm going to go up and sit there for a while. If anybody feels like coming up, having a chat.
See you there.
We have a little library that you could borrow books from on a, honest, we don't have anybody that keeps track. But you can borrow them if you're interested. Yeah, about 3 bookshelves full of basically old philosophy books.
Hi.
Hello.
Nice to meet you. Jonah.
Jonah?
Yeah, I wasn't here on Wednesday. I
How
just
did you do to that fish,
Oh, yeah. No way. Oh, yeah. Well, it's good in your class and really like that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was on the fence about joining this class and, being here.
That hurts.
It's been saying, well, I'm glad I
I was
joined
on the
it.
fence.
Yeah. Well, nice
You're
meeting you.
Callow, right?
Yes, sir.
Nice to meet you, Jonah.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining the class. I hope you
That was
enjoy
good.
it.
Yeah,
I enjoy it. I'm hooked. That's, I guess, pretty obvious.
I also enjoy it. Anyways, I'm not gonna be here Wednesday, just trying not to.
I do plan on doing this.
This right here? Oh, yeah.
So this whole class apparently was, I don't know whether